I thank the chairman, and I would just, Mr. Chairman, all of us want integrity at the voting booth, but if you are somehow implying that only Republicans have been engaged in voter fraud, I challenge that and take great offense at it. We just saw in Texas tens of thousands of illegal aliens voting, and this is an issue that goes far and wide. It is not on one side of the aisle, sir, and I would like that to stand corrected. And this bill does not correct that.
But the gentleman yield for
yes, sir.
And I'll give you your seconds back. Nobody said that. I didn't say that. I quoted the court, and I did not just blame Republicans or anybody. All I know, I was trying to make it clear that it has been made far difficult for people who look like me to be able to vote, period. And we all need to be addressing that. That's what I was trying to say.
Reclaiming my time.
If you took it any other way, I did not intend it that way.
It was certainly implied that way, Mr. Chairman. I accept what you just said. My contention across the board, however, H.R. 1 does not address this problem. It makes the potential for voter fraud even a greater possibility. This is not a solution to the problem that all of us in this room are concerned about. Mr. Smith, I'd like to go to you. Should taxpayers be required to pay for political speech?
Well, I think there are a couple of points here. One is a sort of a moral point that was raised earlier by Mr. Meadows and by Mr. Jordan, that there's something sort of deeply wrong about forcing people to fund the political campaigns of candidates they greatly abhor. But there's also a practical problem here.
Well, let me go on. All right. Yeah. So yes or no?
I think clearly not. But I do understand there are practical problems with it as well. It's not just an ideological.
Well, absolutely. Maybe we'll have time to get into some of that. So they should not be required to pay for political speech. I'm assuming you would also agree that they should not be required to pay for political speech that they disagree with.
Well, in particular, yes.
All right. Our colleagues on the other side have pointed to so-called success in expanding public funding of election in places like Arizona, Maine, New York, and so forth. So far as you're aware, have these programs been successful?
No. Typically, the measure they use for that is how many candidates choose to take the money. So they're kind of saying, well, if the government offers you free money and you take it, wow, the program was successful. But in terms of quality of governance, almost all the claims do not come true. We're told that it would elect more minorities. That's not been the case. It should elect more women. That's not been the case. You don't see much difference in the makeup of legislatures. And I certainly don't think people look at New York City and say, wow, now that they've had this matching program, they're well governed, better governed than in the past.
So have these programs been successful then in preventing corruption?
I don't see any way that they have. In fact, they're often an avenue for corruption because, again, you have things that were previously private money. People, if a candidate wants to waste money, he can do it. Now it's public money. If he diverts it to personal use, it creates a greater scandal.
Do these programs really limit the influence of special interest groups?
Not seeing that at all, in part because particularly with these matching fund types of things, groups that are well organized to go out and solicit large amounts of small contributions can do that. They also invite fraud in the sense that in the past, a person might contribute to $250,000 or $500,000, but now he tries to get a bunch of other people to each contribute an amount below the matching amount and give them money to make the contributions, because then you up the matches. So they're really sort of an invitation to corruption.
You touched on this a while ago. I'd like for you to go a little bit further, but what will this program do to public discourse and free speech?
Well, public financing programs, I think, are not helpful for free speech, in part because, again, they tend to be avenues for corruption in many ways. We also find there are studies that show that the small donors that are often solicited for these things actually tend to be more partisan donors than sort of more institutional people, so that they tend to lead to further polarization of the political system. Okay,
one last question. Going back, it was interesting to me when you mentioned the 5-member versus 6-member on the FEC. Can you elaborate on that, why 6 members, in your opinion, is the appropriate way to go as opposed to 5?
Sure. It's a unique commission in the sense that it directly regulates elections and who's going to win those offices, or it can have that effect. So it has always required 4 votes on a 6-member commission. That is, you had to have some measure of bipartisanship. Once you go to a 5-member commission, you'll lose that requirement of bipartisanship. Furthermore, it will totally go away because the chair, again, will have this tremendous authority on his own, even if all other commissioners oppose him, to subpoena people and launch investigations and so on.
Thank you very much.